welcome to the Coding with AI podcast, where we have conversations with real humans, not AI, but they're building apps with AI. I'm Marcelo Lewin, your host, and I'm the founder of I Code with AI. If you want to get a hold of me, just email me, marcelo@icodewith.ai. Now, in today's episode, I'm having a really good conversation with Debbie O'Brien. She's the Principal Technical Program Manager. It's a mouthful right there at Microsoft for the Playwright testing suite. And we're going to be talking all about testing and why that matters so much today, especially with vibe coding. But before we get started, you know how this goes. Go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Click that bell icon to get notified when a new episode is out. And if you enjoyed this episode, and I know you will, go ahead and hit that like button. If you didn't, send me an email and tell me why. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and get Debbie in here. Debbie, welcome. Glad to have you here.
Hello. I'm so glad to be here and to be called a human, because I think nowadays you could be just having a conversation with an AI.
Well, we still don't know, right? I could be the AI, I mean, we're
That's
getting
very
to that
true.
point where it's very hard to tell now. So, but
It
no,
is.
we're both real humans, so I'm glad to have you here. So anyway, thank you for being here. I introduced you as the technical program manager at Microsoft, but give us your take on what you do and your background.
Yeah, so basically I'm responsible for the community side of things. So when it comes to Playwright, making sure that the community knows it exists. Obviously, we've built up the community, that we have an amazing community around Playwright, and building around the content, and then listening to the community of what they need, what they want, what are we missing in the testing scene with regards to Playwright? How can we then bring that back to the product team, work with the product team, and see how they can improve the product based on what the community is looking for, and obviously based on whether we can do it or not, right? So basically, yeah, a lot of community work, and obviously Playwright is open source, which makes it really cool because it's free to use. So you're not selling anything. You're just basically saying, here's a free tool to use, and it's so cool. And like, there's a whole team of us building and improving it, and make sure you know about it. So it's a great job. I've been working in open source for many years.
Well, I was going to ask, give us a little bit about your background. How did you get where you're at today? I mean, you're at Microsoft now, but give us a little bit of your background of how you got there.
It's a really, really long story, so I'm gonna have to like cut it really short.
Maybe
But
we'll
I
do it short
basically,
because we have, only
yeah.
40 minutes.
So I basically started coding in, I think it was 1999. I don't know. I don't remember. It was the first year the internet came into the universities or the colleges in Ireland. So we were building websites and we hadn't even seen the internet. We didn't even know what it did. We were just doing localhost. Anyway, the web was boring. So after a year in a job, I left and I went to Mallorca, which is where I live, and did other things. And then while I was, doing entertainment, and then in the winter I wouldn't have a job, I'd start studying again, getting back into tech. Tech kept changing. I was learning PHP, then I went to Flash websites, WordPress websites. So all the time it was just keep building up. And I was working in tech then, but I was the original like front end engineer, front end being HTML and CSS. So I didn't know JavaScript. I didn't know how to do, like, that was given to a programmer. A programmer
No
did that stuff.
frameworks. That was just pure HTML and
No,
JavaScript.
yeah, there was no
exactly.
components, no nothing. It was,
Exactly.
hardcore
I remember
stuff.
those days.
It was good fun. You had to think a lot.
Yeah.
So I worked at many companies, and then after a while, it was very hard for me to become employed because I didn't know the JavaScript side of things. I didn't
Right.
have the programming skills. So the skills had moved on and I hadn't moved on with it. I hadn't been upskilling. I had just been doing my 9 to 5 and, not really paying attention to the way the tech world was going, because I was a front end engineer when I didn't need to know JavaScript, but apparently I did. So it was about 7 years ago. I gave up absolutely everything, all my other jobs that I do, and just basically learned JavaScript. And studied 9 months full time. And I mean full time, like I was on the treadmill studying. I was studying like every single hour of the day. And the goal was, if I can make it this year, I can make it. And if not, I give up and I go and work in a bar or become an English teacher or do something else. No, and that's so true.
And what happened? No, I'm
I was,
kidding.
yeah, I was like, I'm getting old, right? So I was like exit out the door, like this is the end of my career in tech. Or I just put everything into it and do my best to just try and learn everything that the world is offering. And at that stage, there was a lot to pick up. Frameworks were just kind of starting. Well, not starting, but they were out. They were kind of like,
Yeah.
so we were doing React, we were doing Angular, and you're expected to know so much. So I ended up finishing my courses. I got a job straight away. Um, and then because I have all the architectural skills from many years of programming, but not programming,
Hmm.
it meant that I was able to do so much more than just someone who'd come out of studying for the first time, right? I was very skilled, but now I had these extra skills. So it meant then we built our own framework basically for a company, which was great fun and something I do not recommend anyone do. We introduced testing, we introduced components, we basically introduced everything to kind of like how to tidy up this massive code base of mess.
Hmm.
No offense to anyone that built it, it's just the way the world was in that moment. And then from there, I went into agency work, and that was also a lot of like trying to get companies to test applications, trying to the agencies basically like they sell something and then they take away the testing because they need to cut the cost, and it's like, right, let's remove the testing part, and then you have to deliver the same work but nothing gets tested, and you're like, that's so frustrating because then they come and ask you to fix it, and you're like, but we had tests this, we wouldn't be
Right.
so yeah, that's basically from there. Then I went to work in Nuxt, which was my framework of choice. It was absolutely amazing to work for them. And then I went on to work for Bit. That was a very challenging role as well because it threw me from the Vue world right into the React world and right into TypeScript and into more unit testing. So that was great fun. And then I ended up here in Microsoft by chance. Someone sent me a job link and said, you should apply for this role. And I didn't even know what Playwright was. I was a Cypress user. I had no idea. And they're like, you're going to love it. You need to check it out. And Playwright was very kind of new at that stage and not much community. So it was a good role because I got to build it up, which was kind of cool.
That's awesome. I love your progression in your career. And what's interesting is throughout it, the common thread is learning, right? And now with Vibe coding, there's so much to learn constantly, right? Like I'm constantly learning every
It's
time.
anxiety,
But it's good
but it's
anxiety, I think.
exciting.
But
Yeah, like I don't
exciting,
want to go to
it's a
bed. I
good
just want to like
anxiety,
watch that
right?
next
Like
YouTube
I was
video.
anxious
Yeah.
before I started here, and now I'm feeling good, and it was a good anxiety that keeps you going. But with vibe coding, you're always learning because
Mhm.
the AI gives you new frameworks or whatever, and you
Which
got to look it up.
people think you're not learning because you're getting the AI to do everything for you. So
No,
you're actually
you're
removing your
learning more than
skills and being
ever.
stupid. Exactly.
I mean, now I've coded so much with AI, and I've learned Svelte, I've learned Hugo, I've learned just about so many things. I've learned how to push to Netlify, how to push to Vercel. I didn't know any of this stuff. I didn't know Playwright until I found out through AI. Then I spoke to you, and that all of that is learning constantly. Anyway, we're not going to do the advocate thing here, although I'm a huge advocate for vibe coding. But let's start with the testing, because that's guilty as charged. I'm gonna say this. I code a lot, but I don't do a lot of testing. Now, when I say that is, I mean I do the basics, right? I'm gonna make sure, is it working, right? Is it passing? Is it good for the user? But there's a lot more involved to that. So why don't we start with the basics of testing? And there's many types of testing, like unit testing, component testing, E to E, right? So can you explain that whole pyramid of how, of the testing that we should be aware of, even if you're not a developer, and including some developers, right, are not aware of it either.
Yeah, I think before we had like the testing pyramid, the old style, and basically everyone focused on unit tests. And then they kind of did a little bit of integration tests and then end-to-end tests with this tiny bit at the top. Because end-to-end test was hard and it was very costly and it was very flaky and it kept failing. So it was kind of like the last thing you did. And that's completely like turned around. So I actually call all my tests end-to-end tests, even though they're probably integration tests and not end-to-end tests, or maybe I don't know. I actually just bundle it all together because for me, it's basically testing how the user uses your website, and that to me is an end-to-end process. I don't do any unit testing ever unless there was a specific component that I'm really like I really needs it. But I tend to believe that you could get away with almost just doing end-to-end testing nowadays. Again, if you're building a component library for someone else, then you obviously want to do component tests and make sure that those are working because you're sharing it across your company or whatever. But in general, you want to test what the user is able to see and do. You want to be as close to the user as possible and test less implementation details because we keep changing those implementation details. And what really matters is that, from your website, the person can sign up for this podcast. They can click the button to play. They're the important things. So that's what we should test.
So let's break it down a little bit so people understand when we say unit testing versus component testing. Break that down a little bit so people understand what do we mean? Because remember, a lot of Vive coders, right? They're the what I call the new generation of builders. They're not developers. They're coming from they're maybe a product manager, maybe they're a product marketing manager. People building tools, building a whole bunch of stuff. So for those, what's the difference between a unit test, a component test, integration testing?
Well, unit test is testing a unit, a function, a functionality, just something like a product in the shopping cart kind of thing, that particular unit. And the component is testing the shopping cart, and that shopping cart component should be able to work on its own independently. Like it's being tested independently. It spins up a dev server, and you can kind of test that independent of everything else before you put it in the page. And the kind of integration or end-to-end test is like that shopping cart is in the page, and now you've got all these other things going on. And how does that all work together? And how is the story of the user coming in? Do they need to log in first? Do they need to select a product? Do they need to add a product to the cart? Then they go and open the shopping cart, and then they go to the whole purchase thing. And that's your end to end from starting looking for the product to buying the product.
So do you recommend, so you say you don't do unit testing, but in other words, you're not writing the function or having AI write the function and then do a test for it. So what's your take on test-driven development, and maybe explain a little bit of that as well?
I think it's very complicated, and I think that you either have to be one of those people that can do it, or you don't, because it's really like some people are very good at it, and I tried to do it, and it just again, it depends on the app you're building as well. And I'm the kind of person that changes how I build things. I build in the momento. Um, Way before AI came along, it was just always how I kind of did things. So to build your test first, you really have to know what you're doing. So you build the test and then you build the application. But if you keep changing it, you're going to keep changing your test, which is also fine. But it can be a lot of work and can slow you down. Again, that's just my opinion, but I've seen some people do really, really well in test-driven development and make their tests before their components or whatever. But that's just not me.
Right. I've tried doing it too, and it's hard for me as well. But I to clarify, I think in test-driven development, you're writing tests that the AI should write code for that it passes, basically, right? So
Yeah,
you
but you've
know
still got to
that,
have a clear indication of
right,
what the product, where you want it to go. So you've got to
right,
get your user journey very clear.
right. But as an example, let's say you have a login field and it can't be null, so the test will be make sure the field is not null, and then
Mhm.
the AI will write that
But
for you.
thinking about how to test is also a hard problem if you're
It
not good at
is.
it.
It is. Yeah, no, I'm guilty as charged as well. Now, you mentioned it slows you down a little bit. And so how do we strike that balance? Because that's an important thing, right? And I hear that a lot. I hear it from me when I'm coding and I'm like, okay, this I know we have to test, but I want to keep going with the vibes. How do we strike that balance, right? Because depends on the kind of app you're creating, right? If there's high risks, potential for failure that could do harm on others, whether it's financial, safety, or whatever, obviously we got to put more thought into it. So how do we find that balance? Or how do you find that balance?
How do we find the balance with time? I guess it depends on the product and how important it is. It's not easy because we have like delivered so many websites in the past and with zero tests for really big clients, and it's like this could go wrong. And I have used websites, and you have used websites that literally fail, and you're like, I can't buy this product. I actually cannot purchase it. And it happened to be literally the other day. They were doing an upsale on something. I bought some beach towels, and they were selling some gym towels, and I was like, that's like a really good offer. I'm going to go ahead, and I couldn't purchase it. And I got really annoyed. So I emailed them and I was like, this upscaling, it doesn't work. So like, it's like really nice. I really wanted the offer. And now I'm really annoyed because now I've got to pay full five price for it.
Right.
But things like that are still out there. That means code is still not tested in our world of like really good websites that we are purchasing from. They're losing money. They don't even know about it sometimes because people are not going to report it. So it's very important to kind of prioritize things and say, right, what is important to you? For you, Marcelo, if people don't sign up, do you care? Maybe not. You lose a couple of people, who cares, whatever. But if you were making a living out of this,
Right.
you should really care.
Right, exactly. Or if it's a health app, right, and something can go wrong and harm others.
Government
Um,
app or.
a government app, or even like you said, a business app where, so you
Mhm.
have to, so in other words, the answer to how important is testing is really depending on how important is your app and who does
Yeah.
it affect and what are some of the risks associated. I mean, you have to do, and that, and see, and that's where people I think that want to vibe code run into problems, because vibe coding is less thinking, more doing. But then with this kind of stuff, with testing, and what I encourage also with vibe coding is you got to design and plan before you code if you want something scalable. And that's where people I think start getting turned off, because they want that immediate, oh, I need it now, I want it now. But
But don't you feel that as well? Now that you can get things so fast, you just want it faster?
so to answer that, you know what's funny is I had, because I do PRDs before I start coding, I do a plan, and in the plan, the AI said it'll take about 45 minutes to accomplish the next following task. And I looked at that and I'm like, what? I mean, why not 5 minutes? And then I stopped and thought about it. I'm like, wait a minute, that would have been
A week.
weeks before, you know? And now I'm mad because it's 45 minutes. So, yes, sometimes I do feel like that. But to be honest with you, the more I code and the more important my app becomes. In other words, it becomes where I want to make money with it. It becomes where I want it to scale to users, where people are actually using it and it's making a difference in their life. We have to slow down. Now, that doesn't mean that we
Mhm.
slow down to months of coding like before, but we still have to slow down, I think. And I think testing, I feel that that should be a very big portion of this. And what's your take on that? In other words, out of 100% of delivering the app, what percentage should testing take of our time as vibe coders?
I don't think you can put a percentage on it. And I think as well, because now when you're vibe coding, you are sometimes just going into whole, like, I'm actually building an app at the moment and I have absolutely no idea what I want. And I'm literally using GitHub Spark, which is some people have access to, not everyone has access to, but it's one of the cool tools that you can basically put in an idea and get an app. And I have an idea and I want this app. And I put in like, this is what I want. And it gives me something like, that's not really what I want. Or I'll start kind of like say, can you change that? Can you add a calendar? Can you put the drop down here? Can you put it there? And it does all this and it's super fast. And then I'm like, I've changed it so much that I'm
Right.
like, do you know what? My instruction was so bad. I'm going to go and reiterate over because I like this is what it did to me. So it's great at giving me ideas to then go back and redo it again and give it a better prompt. You're probably doing a better job than me because I'm just doing little kind of small kind of prompts in to build the app. Um, but giving it a full plan of like, this is where the app should go. This is the user journey. This is what it should do, and then it comes up with a better scenario, a better app that's kind of workable. I'm almost there on the app that I want for myself. It's just about managing time. I'm spending so
Mm.
much time. I'm wasting time building an app, managing time. So I don't know if it's actually good, but I haven't wrote any tests for it because I keep changing my ideas. I keep changing. But once I feel like it's in the state of now, there's just minor improvements can happen or new ideas, but it's kind of like this is ready to ship. When it's
Right.
ready to ship, then I should start saying, okay, now I need to write tests before I ship. And that's kind of like, what is the percentage? It depends on how long I spend vibe coding it. Maybe I just on the first take, it built it in 5 minutes and I'm happy. Or maybe I took like what I'm taking, which is a good couple of hours because I keep changing my mind.
Hmm. Well, but I think what you actually just described was the discovery period of your app, right? It's not
Yes.
the actual app you're shipping. It's the discovery of I'm germinating this idea. I'm going through it. I'm discovering really what is it that I want? What do I want to
Hmm.
ship? What is it going to look like? But like you said, when you're ready to ship it, which may not be really shipping it, but you're getting pretty close to production app, right? That's when you kick in and say, okay, now I need to do some testing. So at that point, what kind of tests are you running? Or do you
Oh,
think you should do? Yeah.
just end to end tests. So
Okay.
I wouldn't bother with any other testing because I just want me to not be stuck using my app because I don't even want this for anyone else. It's just for me. But I want to be able to use it. So I want to be able to add the days, the week, the time, everything should work. So I want to test all those scenarios from a user perspective because the code behind it, and I'm going to be very honest here, I didn't write it and I don't care.
Yeah.
I just want the front end to work. And if it looks good and it works and the tests, also ensure that it works, I don't really care about the implementation details. So I don't want to test that.
Got it. Right. You want to, your focus is on testing the user experience and what they're
Yes.
going through to make sure all of that works. I mean, with
Yeah.
that said, obviously there are security implications that you want to test too, right? I mean, the perfect example that comes to mind is the T app, which I'm sure you heard about, which was 100% vibe coded, and then it was women were uploading their private IDs, and then all of a sudden, uh, they didn't know they made the S3 bucket public, and people were downloading private IDs from women that were supposed to be protected from that happening, right? So obviously,
I've seen a couple of scenarios even from like a small karate school where they sent all the parents and then everything was just in there in a JSON and everyone had access to all their telephone numbers and emails and
right,
addresses and everything and all the private data of every single parent and student was in there and it was vibe coded so they had no idea that like this should be stored. So yes, these kind of things when you're talking about working with sensitive data or someone else's data, then obviously you are more responsible to add tests for that specific thing. If you're just building for yourself, it's very different. If you're building for a company, you're building for a specific product, you need to think about what is important for that specific product. So your testing needs will change depending on your product and your users.
exactly. Yeah, I'm glad you said that. So let's talk about a little bit about the end to end, which is obviously you are the program manager with Playwright. Explain for those of us, including myself, that weren't that familiar. Now I am because I did a lot of research after I met you
Mhm.
with Playwright. Explain what is Playwright, what are some of the features of it. We're not pushing or endorsing anything because there's tons of tools out there. Playwright is a big one out there that people should look, and it's open source, right? Like you mentioned, it's free and open
Mhm.
source. So go get it. But explain what is Playwright, what kind of testing tool is it, where does it fall in category, and why people should use that for their vibe coding.
Okay, let's first go back. I'll go back to 7 years ago when I was learning JavaScript, and I had to build a form in JavaScript, and everything had to be filled out, and we had to like we were manually going through, and you'd fill out the name of the telephone, and then you get to a point, and then the code would break, and then you go and try and fix that, and then you go back up, and you're manually filling it out each time until you kind of find a point where you fill it out and it works, and then you fill it out and you press the submit button, and the submit button doesn't work, and then you go back and do it all again, and you're spending so much time filling out that bloody form, right? That is where Playwright shines or testing browser automation testing shines because testing can do it much faster than you. Like filling out that form is a test script. That Playwright basically is running a test script that can go and fill out that form right in that Joe Doe what is it, John Doe, Jane Doe,
Right.
Jane Doe at example.com, the telephone number, all this kind of stuff. It can just fill it out really, really quickly, much quicker than you. And then you can even just like go away and like just come back and find the test results are this. And then obviously it's not just that, not just saying, right, it failed here, but it's giving you tools to help you debug those errors. Playwright, for example, gives you a trace viewer. So you get a full trace of the actual test. You get a DOM snapshot. You can basically go back and forward in time, see the actions before, the actions after, what was happening, what went wrong. You can see the console errors, you can see the network requests, you can see all that kind of stuff. And that makes it really, really easy. And then obviously, like when it comes to testing, like how do you get started with testing? How do you write tests? Well, it also gives you code gen, which is a way to generate your test code based on you actually. So you fill the form in once. So you manually do it once, but it now records all those actions and now it has that and the test is written. So you didn't even write a test. You just
It'll
basically
generate the actual code test for you. So then you just run that test script, basically.
exactly. Now, obviously, depending on how complex your app is, you may have to add some different assertions in. It can generate some assertions, but you might have to like modify some of that, improve some of it. But in general, it's a very good way to get started, and you've got a test written. So there's a lot of kind of tools to make it easy for people to test. And then Playwright does like auto waiting. So it means, JavaScript is loading, the button, is it ready? Is it clickable? It will wait until it is clickable. So you don't have to think about adding a timeout, which in previous frameworks you would have to calculate how long it's going to take for that button to load. And then it has auto retrying. So it basically is going to retry that assertion. Is that visible? No, it's not visible. Hang on, I'll wait for a second. Oh, it's visible. I can go ahead and click it. So that just basically takes the pressure away of flaky tests and people being annoyed with testing, right? Because the tests work because the tooling behind it makes it easy. Um, Go ahead.
So can you have, I was going to ask you then, it just came to my mind that then can we have AI, can we just talk to AI and go, hey, we need to generate a Playwright test script to do the following and have it write the script for you?
Totally. And it's getting better and better and better. When it was first like I was playing with it, I don't know how many years ago, like for an AI was just like newish. It wasn't very good because it was trained in very old data. So it's older versions of Playwright. But now it is much, much better. And now because you can give it instructions. So I have an instructions file on my VS Code where I literally explain to it how I want my Playwright test to be written. That I want get by role locators instead of CSS locators. Like this is important. And then when you guide AI can do a great job. If you just tell AI, just do this, it just does this, that, or something else, and you have to piece it together. So if you're very clear in your prompts and your instructions, I think that helps a lot. And then obviously, and I know I'll bring this up, maybe you want to bring up later, but you also have the MCP server.
No, actually, it's a
So
perfect
the
time to talk about that. Now, first,
okay, cool.
take a little step back and what is an MCP server for those that aren't familiar with MCP? And then let's jump into the MCP server for Playwright because that's an important part, especially for vibe coders.
Yeah, so the model context protocol, it's just a protocol or a way for people to connect LLMs or agents, your co-pilot or whatever agent you're using, to servers to basically provide them tools that they can do it. So I like to say it gives them superpowers. It gives them possibility to do things that they couldn't do before. One of those things is actually navigate to a website and fill out a form, which we're talking about forms today. Let's continue with the form example. So if you ask a Copilot to go to this website, fill out a form and press the submit button, it'll be like, I can't really do that, but I'll guide you in how you can do it. And that's not really what you want. So the model protocol, the MCP, basically just gives a standard way for people to write this. You can plug it into any agent and it's just going to work everywhere. So it's really, really, really cool. The Playwright MCP server gives the agent access to the Playwright tools. What are Playwright tools? Browser automation, such as navigate, run, click, tabs, hover states, all the kind of things that you need to do on a web. So basically what that means when it comes to testing is there's a couple of things. You can turn around and say to it, go to this website and give me some ideas of the core functionalities of things I need to test. And it will go to the website and it will start navigating. And before your eyes, it's going to bring up a browser. You can watch it actually navigate there, click. Maybe you have a filtering system. It'll start filtering for things and it's doing all these actions. While it's doing that, it's saving into its memory and context everything that it's done. So then it's able to write a really good test because it's actually performed the actions. And that means you can even, whether you don't have access to the code, you can still go and generate the test. And now also you could also know exactly what you want to test and give it a scenario and say, can you generate a test for this? But before you generate a test, navigate to the website and perform these user actions and then write the test. And then you're very I think you're very clear of the test being good, but you're also very clear on kind of watching the user journey and seeing what it's doing. That's kind of something I really like about it. It's like, go and see, I want to see it. And then because if you ask me to use your website, I will use it different to how you use your website.
Right.
So watching AI use it, it shows you something that you're like, oh my God, I didn't think about that. Oh, look at it did that, which is kind of cool. It gives you some edge cases that you never thought about.
But now this brings into my mind something about you can give AI different roles. So doesn't that mean that we can create, for example, sub-agents, like in Claude Code, you can create sub-agents, and I think in VS Code, you can Copilot, you can do the same thing.
Yeah.
That are different roles. For example, let's say a power user, a regular user, a professional, whatever your roles are important for your app, and then have it test as those roles and report to see. I mean, is that a possibility now?
Sure. I mean, I have different roles, but mainly they're around like website, like someone who generates a test and someone who explores a test, and but there are many other roles you can do. But yeah, I think it depends on your app, depends on the kind of things you're looking for. But what I like about it is that it's endless, right? What you can do
Yeah.
is endless. You just have to imagine it, and you can practically do it. So you can write your test in pure English, or you can just do it in bullet points, or you can do it in a paragraph. You can do, and it just gets it right, and
Right.
it's very cool.
So Playwright prior to MCP, you had to manually go in and click everything and then
Yeah,
generate the script.
or
And then
write the script yourself.
or write the
Maybe
script
you're
yourself if you want to,
exactly.
right? Or have it generate based on what you did. MCP comes along, and on top of Playwright, it'll actually now automate all the clicking and all that based on your simple English natural language instructions that says, go to the screen, find this button, do this. That seems
Not even
even,
that.
no?
Not even
Oh,
that. You
tell me.
yes, yes, but not even that. You can literally say, explore this website and come up with 3 to 5 core functionality
So
things that
you're
need
not
to be
giving it
checked.
instructions, you're letting it come up with the full explore. Now you're learning how the AI, which is quote unquote the person, may find that button or,
Mhm. Yep.
oh,
And and you're think like it's testing like sometimes it's very obvious and it kind of like does the normal things. You're like, oh, this is going to test the filtering. That's really important. But sometimes it gives you extra things that you didn't think about. And when it writes those tests, I did it on my website and I've written my tests myself using CodeGen. And then I've updated my tests based on using the MCP server. And it wrote like edge cases that I never even thought about testing that CodeGen wouldn't have tested because I wouldn't have put those edge cases in. I wouldn't even thought about it. So it's giving that extra breath of kind of things that you didn't think about. And that's what's really cool because whether you decide then to use that code or not, even if you say like, no, I'm going to write the code myself because I'm really good at code and I'm really fast and I don't want AI is going to slow me down, right? If you're one of those people, you can still get it to explore the website for you, give you ideas, and then go work off those ideas.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm wondering, and I don't know if Playwright can do this, but can it also record the screen as it's doing all of this, or we're not at that point yet?
It can do screenshots, but we don't have videos as such.
Got it. Okay. But even with screenshots, my thought is you can use Playwright not only to write tests, but then you can also write like documentation almost.
Yeah, some people are using it to actually write documentation and take screenshots using the Playwright MCP server. So yeah,
Right.
it's a
So you can
great use case.
automate your documentation, let's say tutorials on how to add a user in your app, let's say, if that's what you do, right? Or anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You
Oh my
can say like,
gosh.
go ahead and yeah, no, it's yeah, it's very cool. And you can just update. At the moment, I'm updating the Playwright docs because I wrote it with my English, and it's my English is really bad. I write like I speak, so it's like it's terrible. The basically, AI is just making it better, just improving things, and these are just small improvements that it's just like it's crazy how fast you can get things done.
Right, right. Just make sure it doesn't use the M dashes. I hate the M dashes. It's always
Yeah,
using the
that's
M
why you put in
dashes.
your yeah,
That's
you
my
put in your
first instruction in
I don't
all
use
my
it.
AI is do not use M dashes, please.
And don't add emojis. We don't need emojis
Emoji,
because
I
it's
had one where literally there was like 100 emojis. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm getting
yeah.
mad at AI. You have to be nice
AI
to
is getting
AI.
better at understanding me though.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So let's talk about mistakes people make when it comes to testing. What are some mistakes or some things that they shouldn't do when it comes to testing?
Um, I don't know. I think people sometimes will write it. I think if we're talking about vibe coding, sometimes the worst mistake is basically someone just playing the test, running the test, and it passes and not actually seeing what it does. So if you're going to run that test and you haven't seen it in action, haven't seen it open a browser and actually do those actions, you're just basically saying, like, is it actually testing anything? So you really need to know that it's testing something. So you should know that what the code output is and kind of review over it. Or if you don't want to review the code, because I think that's the kind of way we're going as well, at least go and watch it in action and see that it does it. And you can do that using Playwright's tools, using the trace viewers, using UI mode as you're running it, or in the VS Code extension. So there's many ways of kind of like checking that it actually does do what it says it's doing. Because a lot of times AI is going to tell you that this works, this test is
Right.
great, and it's not actually testing what you want it to test. So you got to be very, very careful of that and really like make sure that it's doing what you think it's doing.
How do you make sure? In other words, I understand you say you can look, but let's say you're a Vive coder that is not very technically adept to looking at what it's doing and understanding. Do you use other AI to check on this AI and what it created? I mean, are there any strategies around that?
I mean, you can obviously use, like, say, Copilot to go and review your test code, and so you're using AI to write, using AI to review, and that's totally going on. And it is totally cool because it's another pair of eyes that see little things and improvements. Again, this depends on the importance of your app and how many people on your team and how you're doing things. But this is where I always bring the human into the loop. The human is the one that merges everything. The human is the one that, well, actually it isn't, because now Copilot can, make pull requests and merge as well.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful. But you're the one that pushed that code, or looked over that code. So you should be responsible that that test actually works. And I think, like, it's very, very important still to have a human in the loop when it comes to the overseeing the architecture, making sure everything works. And if that means that you, like I said, need to go and, watch those tests in action, and see them being performed, or read that test code line by line, someone needs to oversee things. Who's going to oversee it? Are you going to give that all to AI and hope for the best? I'm not ready to do that yet.
So when do you bring in the human in the loop? Based on, let's say, customers you work with and stuff, when is the appropriate time to bring in? Before shipping? When do you recommend?
Um, it depends. It depends on the team, the app, everything. But obviously before shipping, I wouldn't ship anything
Hmm.
that AI has written fully and even tested fully, and just, ship it, hope for the best, and then, like, have someone look over it. Like, that wouldn't make sense, in my opinion. Always check it before you ship. But I know, I'm sure people do that because time is of the essence and they need it done. It's like, right, it works on my machine, I'll just push it.
Right.
It looks good. Bang. I wrote some tests. I generated tests. It looks great. AI said it works. It should be fine. That's totally happening. I mean, that's totally still going to
And if it's
happen.
not a critical app, oh well, no harm done, right? If it's not critical, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
So yeah.
that makes sense. So what other tools? Obviously, you're in charge of Playwright, but there's other tools out there. What's a good way for people, vibe coders, to start looking into testing and getting educated on testing? And maybe Playwright is like such a huge app that requires a bit more learning. Are there tools that just ease you into testing a little bit at a time? What are some of your recommendations on that?
And maybe I'm biased in this, but I would say, like, to go straight in with Playwright, because it makes it very easy in the sense of, depending on your knowledge and where you're coming from. If you're a developer, you go straight into VS Code. There's a VS Code extension, and you can just generate some tests, press play, and then, like, you have obviously then Copilot at your side, and then you can play around with AI and basically then get it to generate tests and there's so many angles, right? So you can step by step build up your skills to then start using AI to do it, to help you even more with the MCP server. And then if you're not into coding, and you just want to use tests like a manual tester, for example, or you just want to write a test report, then you can totally just use the Playwright MCP server. And now you're not even generating code. You're literally basically saying to it, go to this website and follow these steps, and then report back to me all your findings, and report that in a, I don't know, a README, an MD file, or a HTML file, whatever file that is of your choice. And now that report, can be generated and given to whoever it is, that basically then can take on that task of, did you know that on our website this is happening, or this doesn't look good, or this needs to be addressed, or the performance is an issue, or there's a lot of things. So there's so many angles to testing now that have been made simpler, and that people have access to at an easier level. So depending on the angle you're coming in, from a dev side or from a QA side, it's really exciting.
Yeah, definitely. So, what's your take on the future of testing? Well, let's start with what's your take on the future of vibe coding? Do you think it's a fad? Some people say, oh, it's a fad. Developers, some hardcore developers say, forget it. But what's your take on it?
I think it's very cool, and I don't mean cool in the hype cool. I think it helps us achieve so much more. And I'm going back from the old school programming style. I mean, I first programmed without editors, and we saw editors come in, where now it makes, like, your life easier because it underlines when you've made a spelling mistake. I learned JavaScript I actually failed to learn JavaScript through O'Reilly School of Technology back in the day when the only way was through emails. So I would send an email saying my code is not working, and they would send an email back saying you're missing a semicolon on line 17. That was a terrible way of learning. I think right now it's true, right? When you think about it, it's like, what? Like no one would believe that, but it actually happened. And I think now it's such an exciting time because we have had in the past couple of years, it's been very hard to find programmers. Companies have struggled to find good people in tech. And now we have the possibility of bringing in anyone. Like it's opened the doors to so many more people who can come into the tech world and easily upskill in tech. Whereas I struggled to learn JavaScript. It took me such a long time. And now it's a lot easier. It's bringing the barrier down. And I think that is insanely cool because it also means now I'm not just focused on front end. I could actually, learn Python right now. I could learn C# right now. And I'm sure all the C# and Python developers would be much better than me. I don't mean it like that. But it means I could, widen my scope because AI can help me do that. Whereas before, I could only apply to that job because I'm like, that's the only skill set I have.
Yeah. I feel exactly the same way. It's like before I knew one thing and I had to get really good at that thing, right? If I wanted to get a job. Now, the focus is not that thing, it's the solution that we're trying to build. And then we learn whatever technology will help us solve that solution, right? So I'm exposed to hundreds of different things that before I wouldn't even think of being exposed to because, no, I have to focus on Python. I can't do Svelte. I can't do, so
Yep.
I'm 100% with you on that. So then what's your take on the future of testing? With
So
AI, I'm
again,
talking about, yeah.
nobody knows the future, and the future is changing by the minute in the sense of everything is happening so fast, which is also very exciting and very cool. I think that we are going to start producing a lot more code, which is also very cool at a very fast rate, which means there's a hell of a lot more need for testing and testing at scale. We're going to be generating tests for sure. People are not going to care about writing code. People are not going to care about writing test code either. So tools like Playwright are going to be very important to basically just, get test written and to obviously we're using Playwright code to run it cheaply. At the moment it's very expensive to run a test through like your agent and constantly like running it, through your tokens and stuff. So that's still not there yet. Maybe that will be there one day. But for now, we're running tests on CI like we normally do. And we're going to be creating a hell of a lot more tests. So because there's going to be a lot more code generated with AI, we need to ensure that our tests are good. Someone's got to overlook and see that. I think QA testers have a more exciting role right now. I think they can kind of like step away from the boring part of just constantly clicking that button and start like really diving deeper into kind of more testing and improving the apps. I would love to believe that thanks to AI and thanks to the QA people out there and all the devs writing all this vibe coding and, vibe test coding, we're going to have apps that work. And we're not going to be frustrated. And everything's just going to be a perfect world. And that's not going to happen because, the human in the loop will fail us for sure. And they'll push that code to production and something will fail.
Yeah.
But that would be the ideal, that everything just works.
Well, there was a thread that I was part of that somebody responded and it said a future role, thanks to AI, is the vibe cleaner as opposed to the vibe coder. There's going to be that new vibe cleaner role that goes in. And I'll be honest with you, I've sat on multiple vibe coded apps that I was actually the vibe cleaner, that I went in, right? And with AI, started cleaning up the project, right? Started organizing it, started making it dry, started, doing tests. And so I really do believe that's going to be a position there. But one of the things that I'm a huge believer of is AI is great as a...
position was
go
there.
ahead.
That position was there many years ago. I
For
did that
humans
position
too,
7
right?
years
Yeah.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that doesn't change. It's just now it's being written by other people, but but I was always there. Someone always had to clean up the code. People never
You're
wrote
right.
perfect code. Come on.
You're
You put
right.
20 engineers on a team from different backgrounds and different companies, they're all going to write different things. And the standards and stuff, you might have a couple of linters. I mean, we didn't have linters back then, but you might have like linters and other things set in place. And that standardized things is a much more, but there's still a lot of cleaning up and a lot of code bases out there in the world.
Yep. Agree, 100%. So, okay, cool. Well, any closing thoughts that you want to say before we get going here? I mean, first of all, it was a pleasure having you here. Thank you for taking the time and enlightening us with testing and why I need to do more testing on my apps.
I would say that if you can turn around to me and say you don't have time to test your application, then I will challenge you to spend 15 minutes, on no more than 15 minutes, to literally install Playwright, install a Playwright MCP, ask it to go to the website of your choice, and to generate a test. Run that test. Happy days. You've even got time for coffee because it's going to be less than 15 minutes. Just do it.
I'm going to do that. Yeah. So basically, you just need to install the MCP server. That's it. Nothing else. No app or anything else. It'll take care of the rest.
Exactly. Well, Playwright to run the test as well. So you might want to have that if you're going to run a Playwright test. But you
Got it.
can watch the videos I have on my channel. So
Yep.
you can literally go to debbie.codes and you'll find all the videos. It's super simple to do. And if you're using VS Code, there's just like a very easy way to install a Playwright MCP server. There's an easy way to install Playwright. So it really takes not even minutes. Like you should totally just do it. Just like, don't believe me, just do it.
I'll do it too, and I'll report back.
Thanks.
Debbie, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here. If people want to get a hold of you, is it just debbie.codes the best place or anything else?
Well, yeah, that has all the links to all my other social channels. But LinkedIn, at the moment, LinkedIn is definitely like the place to be. I kind of hang out there a lot more. Twitter is still kind of like, I don't know, not great. LinkedIn definitely. But yeah, you can find me debbie.codes or in Discord and the Playwright server as well. So yeah, definitely.
Okay, excellent. Debbie, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. This has been great fun. Happy.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I hope all of you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. I know I had a lot of fun, and I learned quite a bit. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and download Playwright and go ahead and start doing some testing because I got to stop saying that you got to test, and I have to start testing now. So, anyway, thank you so much, Debbie. Again, thanks to the rest of you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to get a hold of me, email me Marcelo at icodewith.ai, not .com, but .ai. I'd love to hear from you. And also, if you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Click that bell icon to get notified when a new episode is out. And if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and hit the like button. If you didn't, send me an email. Tell me why, and I'll make it better next time. So stay tuned. We have many more episodes coming up. Just go to icodewith.ai, click on podcast, or have Playwright do that. That's your first test right there. Go to my site and test my site out. Have it click on podcast and check out what the next episode is. So we'll see you on the next one. Cheers, everybody.